And as I mentioned in the chat, all the MetroCard stations got shut down this week. So they don't want people using MetroCard because you pay for the MetroCard, and that's how much money is on the MetroCard. You can give it to somebody else. You can, use it at any station. Nobody knows. Whereas you use your card, you're getting charged like a 5% fee by the credit card company. And of course, there's the surveillance aspect, which, like, imagine if you were at a protest and the state decided they didn't like it, they could just shut down everybody's cards and everyone would be trapped.
Well, I mean, we already saw what happened with the Freedom Convoy up in Ottawa, you know. Now, that's without this institution, so they can already do this. But why would we want to make it easier for them to shut down our ability to, have a voice in this country? It's just asking for, more control. From those on the top down on the bottom. And that's really what it gets down to. That's the real reason why they're doing this. The real reason why they do anything is about control now. We could talk about the tax and the for-profit motive and all that stuff, but our system is already socialized, and these people in power, they don't care about getting more money. They could care less about their wallets. All they care about is making sure our wallets are shrunken and by any capacity, and that's the main reason they want to do that. They want to make average working folks poorer. They want to make small business owners poorer, and that's what we're witnessing right now with the introduction of this digital currency system that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Yeah, that's because we think about like hidden fees that like what are going to be the hidden fees that they're going to like charge in this, but the real hidden fee that we're going to be dealing with, and that's what we're realizing after a year of rampant inflation, is like inflation is itself a tax on people who deal primarily in wages, where it's a way to get people who are rich in property and capital. They can just like offload all of their money into accumulate those like real assets, where it's a benefit for them. They can just inflate a whole bunch of money, circulate it really fast into more real estate investments, into predatory debt. Inflation is the biggest tax on the American people right now, and a system like FedNow, which helps them, it helps them have the same like operating language, so that they can all trade money with each other more efficiently. They can all be exchanging, the same. They all have the capacity to be getting into these predatory loans, like what happened in 2008. Now, that's going to be an even bigger tax on the working class, and even inflation is degrowth, is central banks buying up all of the farmland, all of the real estate in cities, all of the industrial supply chains, all of the food, just securing it so that they have sole ownership of it, and just letting the rest of us decay, and increasing the gap between the 1,000 or so people, the 1,000 or so dynastic families in the country who own everything, and all of us in the mud pit, in the Mad Max mud pit, like in Mad Max Fury Road, where they're like the bottom of this cliff, having a stream of water just trickle down on them because they're dying of thirst. That's the ultimate tax that's being imposed on us.
Yeah, don't get addicted to water, right?
Don't get addicted to water.
Yankee, yeah, you guys raise a good point, which is that, you can talk about fees and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, money is really not a means of exchange. It's a means of control. I mean, they don't even pretend that it has value anymore. Like, it used to be ostensibly you could trade it in for gold, but now, I mean, it's not even pieces of paper anymore. It's just numbers in a computer. It's just a big system of control. And like the people at the top, they don't really care how big their number is. They care how much shit they own. And
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we need to take in consideration, this is from worlddata.info, and this has to do with Russia, right? Now, Russia is also implementing a similar system, but here's one of the major differences between uh, what control Russia would have in comparison to what the United States has, for example, right? So in Russia, the average debt per person is 2,107 USD, right? But in comparison, now this is Europe, not the United States. The European Union, the average debt is 35,341 USD, right? So when Russia implements a currency system, they're implementing it on the basis of not control, but actual efficiency. They have a lot less debt on average. But when you look at the EU, or frankly, even the United States, because I'm sure it's a similar amount of debt that a U.S. citizen has compared to your member, a citizen that is a member of the EU or what have you. There's a lot more debt for that individual person on average. And that's really what it gets down to. How can we make it that's more efficient to put debt on the people of these given Western countries? So when Russia or say even China were to implement this system, these people don't have the kind of debt that you see in the West, which is the mechanism of control that that is going to lead to the issues we're going to see down the road here in the U.S.
Yeah, let me. I like the direction you're going in. Let me flip it on its head for a second. Do you know Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad? Yes.
I'm not familiar with him, no.
He's one of those many like wealth gurus that you see on YouTube, and like my dad watches Robert Kiyosaki.
that's a really popular book among conservatives.
Yeah. He talks about like there's bad debt and there's good debt. With obviously for us, people who depend on a wage, our relationship with debt is a negative one. We've since the 70s, since the U.S. was taken off the gold standard and real wages have remained flat for 50 fucking years, just flat. We've had to accumulate more and more debt to be able to even get basic necessities like food. In the United States is like one of the leading country in terms of credit card debt right now. There's like a lot of it for people like you and me. That's the bad debt, and things that we obviously associate as bad. But I would argue that the real goal is not even to put, because we think of these we think of these like grand conspiracies, and it's fun to speculate. I was like, oh, what's the dystopia going to be? But I don't think, because bankers, they're evil, but they're a mundane evil. They're not these like I don't think that there's like these evil conniving Emperor Palpatine types with this grand vision. I think they're just very short-sighted and stupid. And greedy to the point of being almost like dogs. Like, dogs will lick up their own vomit, not because they're evil, but it's just because they're short-sighted and stupid. I would argue that the real goal is just to accumulate more quote unquote good debt, which for them is predatory debt. Because, like I said, I have the press release here from the Federal Reserve. And it says that this FedNow, as an interbank payment system, the FedNow operates alongside other longstanding Federal Reserve payments, such as FedWire, FedEc. It's committed to working with more than 9,000 banks and credit unions. Reuters had said that, where was it? Smaller banks, which often connect to FedWire, which is similar to FedNow, but for corporations. Smaller banks, which often connect to FedWire via larger lenders, encourage the Fed to develop FedNow, arguing that it would allow them to access real-time payments without having to pay larger competitors for the service. So I would argue that the real conspiracy here is not to push bad debt onto us, but it's for like these more these smaller lenders, these smaller banks to get into quote unquote good debt, to be able to get into that business of throwing their capital at at bad mortgages or at decrepit railway systems or on foreign war, to get to centralize, to make sure all of the banks are on the same ledger, to centralize them all on the same ledger.
Yeah, wait, I got an anecdote real quick. So you mentioned like how they're not evil, like conniving. So I want to talk about that for a second. I got a friend who was working in finance, and how it would work is a business would hire them to like increase profitability, and part of that involves layoffs, of course.
Oh, he was a consultant.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes. So, but listen, so they would hire them, and they'd send him a big Excel spreadsheet and say, "Look, we need to lay off like 30% of these people." And what they're pretty much doing is like outsourcing their evil, because like they view these people as people, so they hire someone who just sees them as names in a spreadsheet, and it's like whatever. And what he would do, he literally just used a random function in Excel to just randomly fire 30% of the people. And he gets paid a lot for that, or he doesn't do it anymore, because I'll tell you what happened. So he did this for one place, and then later, like a month later, he has a dog walker for when he's at work, and his dog walker showed up and was like really depressed. And they were like, he asked him what was up, and he was like, "Oh, like my wife got laid off." And it turned out he had laid off his dog walker's wife without realizing it. And I think it really hit him, and he was like, "Damn, these are like actual people." And he got out. But like there's like whole industries that are based on just like doing the dirty work that people don't want to do. It's like profiting off alienating the human from the spreadsheet, you know? And that's how it works. Like, no, these people aren't evil. They're evil. I mean, they're not evil. The system is evil in that it is set up to like turn people into names on spreadsheets. And it doesn't even hit people what they're really doing until, for my friend, he saw like the human cost. And that's how it works. Like, people love to think, like you said, it's like conniving bankers planning all this shit. But it's really not. Like, he's my friend. He's a good guy. But like, this is what he was getting paid a lot of money to do. And that's how it works. I mean, even like, I don't know. Maybe some of the people at the top are really evil, but for most of the people, they're just gears. They're cogs.
Yeah, I think average people, they're going to do what they're going to do for their own survival, right? That's just the situation. I mean, our whole system is set up in such a way that it's a dog eat dog world, and you have to make tough decisions to be able to take care of yourself, your family, your community, your children, etc., right? And, like, I don't blame individual people. I mean, I call me biased as much as you might like in that regard, but my brother, I mean, he works for one of these big financial investment companies. I'm not going to say which one because I'm not trying to risk his job or whatever. But my brother's a good guy, right? But that doesn't change the fact that the institutions themselves are evil inherently. I mean, my brother doesn't like these institutions. We disagree on politics, but he wants to see it that people have healthcare, people have jobs, people have secure financial futures, be able to own their own home, etc. But the institution itself, it doesn't allow him to operate on that basis. He has to be able to secure his own standard of living to work for these companies that like you were saying are individualizing and people to a degree in which they're so disconnected from what their actions actually do in our system. So we shouldn't look at our fellow Americans as, you know, these evil people. But what we should do and recognize is that these institutions need to be dismantled. We need our own